Hi everyone, this is Roxy from Allbearcrew. I was the DM for the Wilds Beyond the Witchlight, um, our second long form campaign. In my second time DMing, I just did a short form one to practice before. Um, so I chose Wilds Beyond the Witchlight because um, I had played a Herringon in a different campaign. I really loved the Feywild lore. I thought it was really neat, and I was like, we need to go there. I found this campaign, and it definitely caught me with the carnival, and I thought that was really cool and fun. And I was like, oh, I've got to run a carnival. And I didn't look as much into it for the rest of it because I kind of got taken in by that. So I didn't realize the Feywild didn't seem as kind of what I would expect. And it wasn't as much of an open world sort of Fey experience. It was more of a linear story to talk about like hags and just some different kind of lore in the D&D universe. So, obviously this is a spoiler if you haven't watched all of our videos on it, or spoilers for Wild Beyond the Witchlight. But a lot of it centered around Tasha, and which you don't get a lot of experience with her, and I thought was kind of a weird choice. They don't set it up very well on how you're supposed to find out about her, and it just kind of seemed like it's an ending for people who are already fans of the lore and that kind of stuff. So our characters were great. We had Peter Rabbit, who is a Herringon uh, druid, and just absolutely adorable. Had a little friend named Harry. Ramnusia, who was a total tank, paladin of vengeance, Asimir, and just a maniac. Cackler was a bard goblin who did not play like a bard basically at all because of his lost things, and it was a really unique experience. Um, and Nirai Vets, who was basically a forest cop. He was a lot of fun too. He was a tiefling, and he kind of tied some things into one of his other characters, and it was a really neat play on everything. I did a little bit of stats. I didn't get to do everything that I wanted to, but maybe I'll do that eventually. I did just go through our combat, and I looked at the kills, supportive actions, create some creative solutions, and the damage that everybody did. I have to say this was shocking when I actually went through it. I think nobody's going to be surprised that Ramnusia had the most kills. She had 12. Um, She also had the most damage, but she almost didn't. At the very end, she does this insane critical hit for 87 damage. That's what put her above the number two person. Otherwise, that person was in lead. So she did like 645 damage altogether. These are rough numbers. I could have missed a couple things. I could have added bad. I didn't overdo it on it. So the number two person with kills and damage is Peter, the druid. It's insane, but he killed 11 things and he did 631 damage. And I think a lot of that was because of his area effect. And he would hit like two, three, four enemies at the same time. So, 10 damage turns into 30 very easily. I also looked at supportive actions, and Peter definitely had the most. He was healing the most. He used his totems all the time. Um, and so he led in support and came in second with kills and damage. And I think that says a lot about the druid and mostly the shepherd druid. The third one was Cackler, and he also came third in damage. He played the bard a lot differently, but he started doing really big damage at the end, especially with like Phantasmal Killer and stuff. And I think a lot of it was how he played his character and that he kept away a lot and just, bad rolls and stuff too. But for supportive actions, Kekler and Narai did basically the same amount. I counted Narai using Irwin, his bird, Kekler giving Burning Inspiration, anybody healing, or kind of helping out their teammates, and they were pretty much even. So I feel like they were just really good supports, and they did a ton of damage. Kekler did 459, Narai did 443. Narai obviously comes in last in kills, but they were right there with each other. So it was 8 for Kekler and 7 for Narai. So really, it was a pretty balanced team. Peter and Kekler were pretty even in how I would say, like, creatively they worked with the team. They come up with great ideas. We have the Chimera, Kekler using the wind and like the gust of wind every time. They just sort of thought about these weird ways to go about it. Narayan Ramnusia did pretty much, hit things. Use their bow. That's what they were good at, and so they were less creative, but altogether it was just such a well-rounded team with such a great role play. Um, I have to say, Peter was probably my saving grace for this entire campaign because I feel like he was the only character really going for the things that the campaign was meant for, or, being curious, inquisitive enough, or taking chances on things so that things were experienced. I was actually really worried about Ramnusia at first. I almost like told Michelle, hey, maybe this isn't like the character for this campaign, but I wanted to see how she was going to work it. And she did a great job. I actually think the personalities would have almost been too much if it weren't for Ramnusia. It did make it a lot more combat heavy than it could have been, but I think that everybody kind of had fun with that too. Um, Claire taught me a lot about being a DM and just kind of how to deal with different situations and role play and be creative with things. And it was really, really fun. The umbrella was totally an accident, but probably one of my favorite parts of the actual campaign was like coming up with cool solutions or just the jokes with it. Rake for Gold was insanely awesome. And I had fun like being the NPCs with that stuff. And Narai, I wasn't sure what to expect with Narai, and I thought that he would be the actual best for this campaign, being a ranger, being a beastmaster, and being interested in things. And his curiosity and his care certainly came into play. I thought he was going to get more into the environment, but like he did forage, he did like get into the trees and stuff and use Irwin. So I almost feel like I kind of let some of that stuff down. I think he wanted more interactions with Irwin, but I wasn't really sure what was wanted, so I didn't like push on it because I didn't know where we were going with it. And so we probably could have communicated a little bit better if there was more for it. But I thought just the the lawful that would come out, the chaos that would happen, and then the lawful that would come out, just it was really fun, especially with the group of people, because I felt like Narai and Ramnusia most of the time were the parents to Kakler and Peter, but then sometimes Narai would also sort of go in with them, and it was fun. I really wanted to tally other things, like, how many times Narai got blamed for things, how many times Cackler assaulted other team members, how many times Ramnusia reached for her sword or axe, uh, how many times Peter got dirty or sticky. So those were really fun things that just were a constant theme that I really enjoyed. There was a lot of stuff like that, and it was really cool to watch people evolve in a long campaign. Um, it was really hard to DM. It was really hard to keep up with, and to keep motivated for that long, I think. Especially because it's like, I'm doing like a year of homework every week. And I was like, wow, that's a lot. That's a lot of time to like keep yourself motivated and going every week. But it was worth it because I think I kind of like long campaigns, just to see everybody evolve. Because by the end, I felt like I was a better DM and everybody was a little bit better at like their characters and role playing. Some things I would do different is maybe less levels. And I don't say that because I thought they were too powerful. I say that because I think we were leveling up so fast. And I think that's hard to get to know your character when you only have like one battle or like an, a session or two in that level. So you kind of, we had to take a lot of time to remember everything we had. I gave them tons of stuff, and that didn't make it any easier. And I think that if that didn't go so fast and we took our time a little bit with it more, it would have been better. It was definitely a rocky start, at least for me. I feel like it was kind of awkward. I wasn't sure where everything was going to go. Wasn't sure how much time things were going to take. And then I think it ended up like coming into its own. I changed a lot about this campaign. Most people, if you know anything about it, it's supposed to basically be like a no combat campaign, and we did a lot of combat. And I thought that was just because of our playstyle. I enjoy doing combat. I think everybody else enjoys doing combat, and I just didn't see this group of people fully enjoying a really long campaign that didn't have any fights or barely any fights in them. So it was worth it. It was fun to create and come up with a lot of those encounters. So if I just kind of go through the setup, the chapters, things like that, it was um, to me kind of badly written, and I felt like it needed a lot of homebrew. Besides the fact that we were doing levels, there was just some stuff that I was like, I don't understand where they're going with this, or um, specifically like the Valor's Call and the League of Malevolence. I tried to pepper them in earlier and kind of make them be part of the story, kind of make them have their own storyline, because to me they come out of nowhere and most of it's at the palace and nobody would really care. I don't feel like my players cared at all anyway, and I put more into them than is actually written. So it was just kind of stupid and weird. I don't know. It just felt like tacked on. I tried to make my own economy with this, including magic items. Didn't go super well. Everybody hoarded everything and didn't really buy much. So there was just kind of like a lot of things on them, a lot of treasure, a lot of stuff they were finding. They weren't even really sure what to use or what they had. So maybe just like a little much. I don't know. Um, the module doesn't really have any maps, which I feel like was horrible. I used Tessa's Presents. Thank you so much. Because we really like and enjoy seeing where we're at. We're a little bit chessy in that way sometimes, and it was so hard to explain a lot of things in the fair, a lot of things they were looking at, even at the carnival, that I was like, why wouldn't they illustrate this in some way? So Tessa's Presents saved me there. It helped out a lot, and it made this experience a lot better. I started with both setups. I wanted them to be kids who had lost something. I let everybody kind of pick whatever they wanted to do. There's like this short list in there of suggestions, and I thought they were kind of boring. Um, so I let everybody come up with that whatever they wanted. And Ramnusia lost her ability to forget, which was the most unique one. It was hard to create the magic item for, but um, it was a really cool one. I enjoyed that. That's why I also gave her the magic storyline, which is the warlock. I felt like if she couldn't forget, she would remember that Zybilno was like a fairy godmother, and he would seek her out because he was seeking out, children that might have been affected. And so I just wanted to add that in because I thought it was kind of cute. And Cackler lost his ability to be creative as a bard, which was really unique and fun. Nurai lost his ability to sing or basically like play music, and he wanted to be a bard. and that was cute. And Peter lost his sense of direction, so he never came home, and that was kind of like a sad and happy experience for, I think, the story and his characters. And I really liked what everybody picked. Um, Again, I homebrewed their items because I thought the ones in the book were boring. Like Peter would have got an orb of direction. It's a compass basically. Like that's not a magical item. I don't know. It's just like I wanted them to feel like what was taken from them was important and grand, so the items that came out of it should have been too. So, um yeah, I had fun with that part of it. I really like magic items and I really like just kind of making it specific was really cool. I did want to have them be kids. I kind of put them in Baldur's Gate because it kind of came out around that time, and I thought it would just be fun to use. And it was somewhere familiar that we didn't have to know too much about. Um, and then I had them lose everything at the carnival and then come back together and find each other. I thought there would be a nice connection between like seeing them as kids and then seeing them as adults, and maybe they would play up that role play, which they did a lot, which was really fun and cool. Um, so at the carnival, I changed a ton of things. Well, not a ton, but a good amount. I used Reddit posts, and there was a lot of suggestions on things to change and how to run this better. I added interactive events at the Big Top Extravaganza because, like, it's just a show. You just tell people what's happening, I'm pretty sure it's the original. And I was like, okay, so they're just going to sit there and I'm going to talk to them. Well, I guess that's kind of what I do. But I shut down the carousel because there's this terrible puzzle that's weird and it doesn't make that much sense, and it's a big lore dump, and it's like this just seems lazy. So I had fun with Diana still being there, and I wanted to use her as a big foreshadowing about making the deals with the hags or what could be coming, and sort of get that unnerve and uneasen. And then instead, I moved that lore to just other NPCs and made them better, or made other rides and stuff better. I got rid of Eliwick because she was such a nothing character that I thought was kind of annoyingly written. She's just kind of like, hey, I'm always watching you guys and I know everything you're doing. And she's like a get out of jail free card. She basically just moves you to the storyline if you need her to. And I was like, these guys are going to be a mess. They're going to be a mess. It just felt a little cheaty on top of just like, it didn't make a lot of sense to me. I didn't get a lot of her motivations. But I also took the night. Well, I kept in the mystery mine with the nightmares, but I took out the actual ramifications or like certain amount of levels of exhaustion for certain days for nightmares. And a lot of people have said that's just killed characters in their campaign before, and it just seemed like a little much and not very fun. So I still wanted to do it because it was super fun having them like freak out and just think of their characters' worst fears in that moment, but like that was the fun part. I didn't think there needed to be ramifications. The Pixie Kingdom was super weird. So I just made it like an attraction so they can see what was there. But I guess you're supposed to like shrink down and play hide and seek with them, which had weird rules and was just awkward. And I was like, I don't know why anybody would enjoy this. So I did not do that. But I still left them in because they were cute. I love doing like the cupcake eating contest with the custard damage. I love doing the snail racing. I'm again, Peter's my saving grace with all of this because he did the snail racing, so we got to do it. I was a little worried it'd be boring with one person, but it seemed like everybody was rooting for Peter, and it was kind of fun. Um, I like the game side games installed, and I just loved being basically every NPC here. That's part of what got me was just that there was a lot of fun characters to play, and um, that's what I looked forward to a lot. Bromnusi almost destroyed everything immediately by threatening to just grab Witch and Light out of things, and I was absolutely terrified about what to do in that moment. But it was a good learning experience on I was able to pivot and figure out how to handle it, and just a confidence booster in the fact that I could handle things and figure it out, and that things like that might happen, and to be prepared for them or have some sort of out or let them find out, like. And I'm really soft and nice when I DM. I hate like causing them any kind of disruption. And so it made me nervous that like she might get thrown out or she might get hurt or like where this was going to go. But I think it was handled well, and it kind of made me more creative. Cackler gets his umbrella here. The lost and found was not like I just came up with items off the top of my head, and I was like, oh, he's probably looking for like something, so I'll put some trinkets in there. It was the umbrella. But again, one of my favorite things. We used it so much. It had so many role playing elements in it that just made it really fun too. The chase went horrible with Kettle Stream. I read it in the DM's guide, and I was working with what I was reading with it, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. I've got to do this with something. And I was like, this is the perfect time because Kettle Stream's super important. Well, I think it was just confusing, and nobody knew what was going on or what I meant, and the rules were weird, and it took a really long time. So, yeah, that was a fail. But we'll see. Maybe there's a better way to do it. Um, they went to the Fae. I almost didn't do the rules of the Fae, but I am glad I did because it ended up being a really fun thing, especially with Peter, like remembering the rules and using him to his advantage, and just harassing everybody with it. I forgot about all kinds of things like death effects that could happen where like you could turn the stone if you went down or died, or things would like reanimate or turn into like dust or things like that. Um, there's also a lot of survival elements and things in the environment that I kind of just had trouble remembering so many things about it. I think maybe if I did a Fae one again, which I maybe would, I would make it more survivally, be more like just about actually traversing and living in the Fae. I loved how the water rose and fell in our first area, which is Hither. I loved it. It was swampy. It was the one I was the most excited for, and I thought it went really well, and it was really cool. Bavlorna, totally gross, totally fun. Uh, Made me think of Miyazaki movie. Um, it gave me a lot of different like Spirit Away vibes and stuff like that. Um, I took the inn from this and I made the inn come back and move around. The inn is actually just supposed to sort of hang out and sit there. It moves around, but like it doesn't leave Hither. And I thought there was going to be more to the economy, so I kind of wanted the shop to keep going around. I love the NPCs in this area too. Being basically all of the frogs. I forgot what they're called already. But being all of them was just it was really goofy, it was really fun, it was like a lot of the role play I was looking for that was just kind of confusing and weird but hilarious. Um the brigands were hard. The Herringon, they were fun, but there's again no map, and it's a really complex system of like these walkways, and I kind of didn't understand it, and I kind of didn't understand even when I got Tessa's maps what the heck was going on or how it would work, and it was like but they were monsters anyway. Who I literally had to create a tiny Harangon child to try to give them some lore and direction because they just murdered and scared everybody, which will be a theme. um, but that was the only like difficult part about the first area. I did take out in this campaign basically every means of travel because for some reason this campaign wants to give them hot air balloons and weird helicopter things and abilities to like plane shift or go back to the material planning, and you're just like, then why are we here? You know, it says, oh, well, you can't traverse between lands without a guide, but here's a hot air balloon. I don't know. It was weird. So I was just like, we're not even going to mess with it because I don't know how that's supposed to work. So I love what they did with the soggy court. Um, they were like, okay, I don't actually even want to deal with this. Just vote. And just how it went down was really fun in the end. I put in Zargosh from the League um, in that battle, and then I also did Mercian, who was supposed to still be alive in the Valor's Call, but I wanted everything to seem like there was just more evil and more bad things and reasons to care, just trying to, again, but get a little bit of a hook with this weird side story. And that was a really hilarious battle with all the rats that were blown on and off Ramnusia, one of my favorites. And I think it went really well, and that was a pretty cool battle, and it helped out. They missed a couple things, but it wasn't anything super major. They loved Clapperclaw, and so did I. I was not expecting them to literally keep every NPC and pet and animal through the whole thing, but it ended up being more fun in the end that way. Um, in Bavlorna's cottage, there's like the Shadow Lady. I think she has something to do with Endelyn, but I didn't have her basically doing a heist there because it was just kind of weird. And these guys would absolutely have decimated her if they found her, and I know that. And so instead, I used it as foreshadowing just about the shadow stuff going on. So I just changed that up a little bit. If they hadn't killed Bavlorna, there were a lot of other options. Hags will make all kinds of deals, and specifically, these hags wanted to mess with each other. So each hag would kind of ask for, like, hey, go steal a picture from my sister's house. Oh, go, hey, mess up this sister's play. Hey, steal this from my sister. And then you'd be able to get your items and or work with her on different deals and stuff. That was not going to happen, especially with Ramnutsia, and I realized that pretty quickly. So I did start kind of building things around the fact that they were going to be aggressive and make final decisions. Um, yeah, then they moved on to Thither. I was actually not super excited about this one, but it ended up pretty cool. Um, I let them have the owlbear Juniper. I just made Juniper a non-combatant, and made sure they had to feed her because you do have to feed owlbears. But I figured she wasn't fancy stuff. She probably was well taken care of and wasn't used aggressively, so it kind of made sense. I loved them trying to figure out the unicorn pool, just throwing stuff in it, just coming up with ideas. That was really really fun. The league guy who was at the unicorn pool the second time and attacked them was actually supposed to be there, but he would easily run off, especially for money. And that's why I specifically let Cackler do his rake for gold, because that was kind of written for Zarok, I think it is, that he would be easily swayed. And he wasn't super into the League of Malevolence thing, he was more into just kind of things and money and stuff. Um, the wanted poster, Keckler eating the wanted poster, that was hilarious. But I had fun with making the wanted posters and having them kind of in different places. I think you're technically only supposed to be able to get like one, but you could actually have made those deals with the hag on the wanted posters but they were terrible outcomes, and I was so scared somebody was going to do one. But there was like, you would literally be encased in gold, or she would hand you the heart of one of your loved ones. um and I was worried about what that would be like, but nobody took it. Luckily, it would have been crazy, but it was cool to still have them find them and come up with ideas. And I like Narai was worried about the one guy being an imp, which technically he is like some sort of imp or demon. And if you remove curse on him, he was cursed to be nice and take care of things and like care about things, but also work for the hag. So it was kind of like a form of torture. If you remove curse on him, he's just upset. Like, and he just attacks everybody. And he's like, "Why? Why'd you do it?" Like, because he doesn't want to be bad, but that's his actual nature. Um, there I put the axe in there. The random acts of kindness was on me because I found it. I don't remember where I found it, but it was a homebrew item where if you get a nat 20, you get to do one of six or eight like extra buffs, like removing AC or somebody's frightened. And it was really fun. It was fun to play like the dryad and stuff, and kind of still, I really wanted them to feel like these hags were evil. So I really tried to make it so that people were really upset about how things have changed and has happened to them and what has happened to the land, really, because they've desecrated basically everything. I tried to give Narai a little bit of something to do with tracking and the Jabberwock's footprints, because it's a dragon type thing, and Narai was into dragons, and also shadowing about the Jabberwock. Um, I did a ring for everyone in Nib's cave. I don't remember what exactly it was supposed to be, but I'm pretty sure it was kind of lame, like all the other stuff I keep saying is lame. And so I gave them each like a ring that did something specific, and it was fun how that turned out. Loomlurch was crazy hard to get together and figure out, especially knowing that these guys weren't going to go in quietly, weren't going to be stealthy, and this place was full of kids, and that Scabatho was pretty cruel. So I took out the tin soldiers that were alerts because I was like, they're gonna alert. there's there's no doubt in my mind that they need help with this, and I was right. They crashed through windows, ate a lot of candy. The candy is one of my favorite parts of this. I wasn't sure about that either, but it was great. Um, some of my favorite moments are here, Ramnusia hitting Peter after the oil can talks, Cackler locking himself in the bedroom and trying to set the whole place on fire. There was a counter I was going to do for how many times they suggest or try to set things on fire in this too, because it's an astonishingly like all the time. Um, there was some quite a bit of lore they missed in things because they weren't. I feel like they were professional lore dodgers in this campaign. They were just like, oh, that might be lore. I'm gonna go do this thing. Um, it was kind of funny. By the end, I was like, does this matter? Because they're just gonna not know. Like, where can I put this where they'll get it? Um, they did save Elkhorn. I really wanted him there to try to give them an out for keeping the kids safe. So, believe it or not, I was terrified they were going to try to take every child with them to Jan. So I was like, okay, maybe this will help, and I kept him there. And I didn't do Scabatha's pet, like mini dragon, pseudo dragon, I think, because I was afraid they were going to also have more pets and companions, and I didn't want to deal with that. Jan, I basically wrote kind of all on my own. I took the basis of it, but I just redid the whole thing because I didn't like it. I didn't understand how all this stuff connected either. Like it gives you a map, but it doesn't tell you where you're starting, where you're going, or how these things even work. So it's just so hard to follow that I was like, if I write it myself, I know where they're going. So I also wanted to kind of make some more danger, get some of those health points off them, which didn't work. Again, I'm kind of a coward being a DM. I don't want to hurt them, I don't want to overdo it. So I probably could have used a lot more hazards, and I didn't. But I try to make it kind of for their play style a little bit more. I made a dungeon and some encounters and things like that that I thought they would be more interested in, and I also tried to bring in some of the Baba Yaga lore. We really don't talk about her, except for the fact that she's the mother of the Hags. And I'm like, well, why don't we talk about her a little bit? She seems pretty important to this entire thing. So I also wanted to have some of the druid lore and information for Peter in there. Also, kind of didn't work out. They went right through the court area. They didn't get any of that, but they did kind of understand that um, Scab or wasn't Scabath in this area. Endelin was trying to like hurt people and keep people down and kind of just destroy the whole area. Originally, there's almost this Hatfield McCoy thing between Briganox and the Cords, and how little they cared about the soggy court. I was like, yeah, they're not gonna care. They're gonna be like, figure it out yourself. We got a hag to kill, which is basically what they still did. So, yeah, I thought at least this was more interesting because it related to one of the characters, and it was some more lore. Um, Skyla was a great battle, but she was supposed to just be acting at Endelin's place, yet she's supposed to be a warlock of Baba Yaga. So I made her more ambitious because it says in there that she's not supposed to care as much about the League either, and she kind of wanted to stay there for her own ambitions. I just made her ambitions a lot more evil, and I did some puzzles and some of the lore that was in that area. We had a great chimera fight that ended up with Peter wrapping web around the wings and pushing Chimera off a cliff, which I thought I was going to be using the cliff to my advantage when I made the field. That was a big learning experience for me because it decimated that entire encounter, but in a really cool way. So actually, even watching it back, I'm just like, it was so cool. And I also could have counterspelled Peter with Skyla, but I forgot about it. And I think what happened was cooler with Narai being able to use the Oracle potion and stuff. So I'm happy with how it went. I had trouble balancing encounters this entire time. I'm gonna try to be a little bit harsher and look at things besides, the rating, and kind of not be afraid to run as many enemies at once or use things like legendary actions, more resistances. Um, my enemies already have like lots of health. So if you're wondering, like, why is this enemy that normally has 34 health taking all this damage? It's because like 100 health is pretty low for me, especially with characters like these. I just up those numbers a lot to keep my enemies semi alive. Like I said, there was an 87 damage crit with Ramnusia. That would take out so many different enemies, and I just think that it's a kind of silly balance. I did really enjoy the play in Yan. I wasn't sure they were going to do it because, like I said, they were skipping a lot of stuff. They were pretty straight minded with a lot of things, and I was like, I feel like Ramnusia is going to try to get them out of this, or Narai is. So I really tried to make my goblins pushy. I tried to really just cut them off a lot of different ways to where they were a little flustered too, and I think they played with it really well and decided to go for it. And it was super worth it. It's one of my favorite moments. And if you haven't, find it. I'll find it. I'll make a note of where it's at. It's really fun to watch. The hag battle, on the other hand, was crazy. There's three 20-foot radius spears going on at once at some point. That's something we struggled with a lot was we learned about radiuses in this one. We basically did a lot of geometry, learned about area of effects a bunch of different ways, and had trouble remembering all that through it. So we had to look a lot of stuff up, but we learned a lot. And Ramnusia did crazy jump in the air, Misty step moves. It was really fun. Cackler and Peter killed a hag at the same time with the infestation, the bug infestation that was going, and the phantasmal killer. And really, it was just a really cool time, even though it was pretty quick for a boss battle. Um, yeah, I at this point wasn't sure where things were going because everybody was going through a lot of it. It was This was the area where it was hard to find motivation because I spent a lot of time on a lot of stuff that wasn't being seen or used. So I was like, I don't want to crazy prep some of these really big areas or really hard areas for no reason, and then not be prepared for the next area. But I still did, and I still prepped the entire palace that was gigantic and large, and I kept it a lot mostly the same. They skipped the Resident Evil puzzle in the beginning, which kind of sucked because I thought it was fun. I thought there was a lot of really fun things in there. And honestly, I'm not going to spoil that much about the palace because I might use it for something else because I do think it was really cool and interesting. And there's just a lot of positive stuff in it, and there's so much going on that you could do like a one or two shot in it or something like that. But I was really happy overall with how people loved their characters and how much they enjoyed what they were doing. Ramnusia's ending was like the saddest thing ever. It was happy sad. I was really happy um, how it ended up for her being like much happier person. And I really liked that she still had that fight in her and she still had that want and need to be a warrior one day. And I'm really happy that Peter had so many friends and did something so positive. Nora has a girlfriend and like a business, and Keckler has like everything. So I hope that those characters stay in touch. And I hope everybody enjoyed playing those characters and enjoyed the world. And I know this particular campaign did make me a better DM because I had to deal with a lot of improv, a lot more than before, a lot more chaos. And I feel like I handled it pretty well. I just went on with it. I stopped spending so much time trying to figure out everything they would try to do, and I spent more time just reacting. So I'm excited to do something again, and hopefully it goes well too.